Hey everyone, welcome back to Filmme Talk, a podcast where two gals talk film, television, and everything in between the reels. I'm your host, Ileana Melendez, and I'm joined here today by my ever so lovely co-host, Miss Josie Melendez. And I think you can sense a theme. Josie's believing. Josie has a different approach. I have a bit of a more basic approach, and she was more out of the box.
Don't make me laugh.
Don't make me laugh. And speaking of the Brits, we are going to be talking about a highly anticipated return to Apple TV Plus, season 3 of Ted Lasso. We have been following along for the past 3 weeks. We are really excited for this new season, and we have tea. We have things to nitpick. We have tea. I feel like it's tea, especially with episode 3 and how things are shaping out. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's start from the beginning. Episode 1. We, after freaking 2 years waiting, we come back to AFC Richmond, and as usual, the team's losing. Everything is in a disarray. Everything's gone to shite, and we see how Ted and the team, and especially Rebecca, deal with that and deal with trying to come out on top for once as a football club in the league currently. And it kind of, puts Rebecca in a really, really desperate position.
Yeah. There's just so much going on. I think that's my favorite part of season 3 so far, that we're getting challenges. Everyone's being challenged, not just the main characters as they usually were the past few seasons. We are also seeing challenges for the background characters. They're being more involved as well, like Will and Colin. So we are seeing a little bit more of the team. Because usually, there are the main team members that we focus on, and then there are the extras. This time we are seeing more of the extras as well, so there are faces that I'm recognizing more, so I like that it's feeling bigger while still contained, because usually the problems with third seasons is that they try to go out of the box and make it bigger, and they have a bigger budget and all that, but I like that while we are expanding in certain senses, we're still keeping it in the nice little knit box that it's always had. So I think so far with these 3 episodes, it's a good start.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see, especially considering that this is, quote unquote, the final season.
Supposedly.
And it's a close.
I just want someone...
Allegedly.
I want someone to say it black and white. Hey, this is the last season. Because at first it was believed that it was just going to be 3 seasons. But then for this one, they've been so vague. And then Jason Sudeikis saying, hey, this is the episode I've been wanting to make. This is the conclusion for the characters that I would like to see, etc. But apparently it's going to be... I can't remember where I heard this, so maybe it's a lie. But I'm pretty sure I remember someone saying, hey, it's open enough that they could continue, but it has a finality to it that is the ideal one they would like for the show. But right now we haven't gotten any confirmation. As far as we know, we can just assume that this is the last season and just go with it, because it does feel like that to a certain extent.
It does definitely feel like it has a certain scale of grandeur to it without leaving AFC Richmond, without going international, I think it's really interesting to bring that global expansion from the outside coming in, which is what we see in episode 2, obviously, with the approach to a new player, a superstar player, an international player called Zava. We got Zava. Rah, rah, rah. And it's definitely something totally new to the team. It's definitely a challenge, not only to the team dynamic, to Ted, to Rebecca, and in particular to Jamie.
That's my favorite part. No, honestly, again, it's my favorite part because, again, season 3, they usually introduce new characters, and it was inevitable for this show. You regardless of how nice it is with the characters we already have, etc., you have 3 seasons. You gotta spice it up some way. And I like
they like it too.
I like that it's because we have, of course, Keely's friend. Like, there's more than one new character, but I like how simple it feels with just Saba. Because it's one character that you're presenting that affects so many people, as you just said. Especially Jamie. I love what they're doing with Jamie because it's forcing him to grow and evolve. Which, yes, my baby boy, my sweet baby boy, Phil Dunster.
Apologist. Season 1 Jamie apologist. I love this evolution for him this season. I think this has been a kind of a long time coming, and I do kind of like the parallel journey, like the parallel yet opposite journeys that Nate and Jamie have been having for over the course of 3 seasons, because we go from Nate, although it's always been hinted that he's kind of a dick and really entitled.
For me, I think we've talked about this before. I don't know where, maybe in a previous episode. But for me, Nate, I've never vibed with him just because it's good writing. I could see where it was going, and some people were shocked, and I was like, I can sense it. I can sense it. Especially with
it was a lot of little microscopic things, but when you rewatch season 1, which I did at one point, like you pick them up, and you're like, oh yeah. Nate was always meant to be this.
Yeah, but also, I think it's from season 2. My favorite episode is episode 5, if I'm not mistaken. That's the number. Don't come for me. But it's Rainbow. I know the title. It's Rainbow. Rainbow is my favorite episode from season 2. I've watched this so many times. So many times. And that is when Nate's arc starts shifting. Even his background music with the score changes because it's the first time he feels betrayal. He's been trying to get his father's approval, and then at the same time he loses Ted's approval because he brings in Roy. And that ruins Nate inside emotionally and mentally. So we've been seeing it for a while. I think what they're doing right now has been interesting because they're just leaning into it a lot, and it's nice to see the oppositions between him and Ted, especially in the next few episodes we're gonna get. So get excited for that because we're gonna get some, if you've been wanting to see some one-on-ones with Nate and Ted, those are coming soon.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see Ted as a character have like a more stark antagonist to deal with, especially with such a more complicated history, because this was somebody that he used to care about, and he probably still does.
Yeah, it's someone he can't charm, because Ted is so good at charming people. We saw it with season 1. We saw it with Trent. I mean, Trent now wants to, as we saw in episode 2, wants to write about AFC Richmond. He's found a purpose with these people despite trying to destroy them in the first season. So Ted has a very natural charm to him. And with Nate, it poses a challenge because he knows how Ted works. So I think
exactly.
It's brilliant writing. I don't wanna like call them geniuses, but I love when we're able to see stuff that works.
I think it is just so nice to see really, really well done character driven storytelling, because at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of people playing football. But there is a certain charm to it that obviously we all know and love, and I think this season is gonna be kind of unpredictable in terms of how it's going to end, which I really like. I know you've been trying, honey. I know you have.
Last night, prepping for this episode, I was telling Eliana, I'm like, the first episode of every season, like, number one rule when you're writing is that it has to mirror the finale of the season. That's why they're there. They're able to set up so then you can build up to the payoff. And we start the season at an airport, and the entire dilemma that Ted has this season is very The Clash. Should I stay or should I go? That's him.
I think that is going to be the ultimate decision that Ted has to make, because as we saw at the end of episode 1, and we kind of like slowly unpicking in episode 2 and further doing so in episode 3, Ted is having a lot of conflict on missing out on his son's childhood, and his son all of a sudden now has another pretty much father figure in his life that Ted did not consent to and was not. Yeah, that was really messed up actually, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah,
it's pretty unethical.
Yeah, I don't want to delve into it because I know a lot of people are going to start doing comparisons to like his real life, because a lot of people are trying to bring down the show considering everything that's happening in Jason Sudeikis' personal life. But there's more people to the show. It's not just him. There are other writers.
Yeah.
So let's
Brett
get
Goldstein
that
being
out
one of them.
Yeah, let's get that out of the way and just say
this is fiction.
that while I was very happy for her, like, moving on. Everyone has, like, if you're not feeling right and the relationship clearly wasn't helping either of them, it's okay. And Ted needed help, and he's now been seeing a therapist, so that's good.
Yeah.
It's what needed to happen. Now, hooking up with your marriage counselor.
That's fucked.
And the way he found out is
it's juicy.
hard.
It's also really juicy.
But also, like, it's one of those moments that you're like, poor Ted, because while Rupert is actively trying to hurt Rebecca with a purpose, with malice, Michelle hurts Ted without wanting to, because she doesn't want to hurt him. But he's a sensitive person. He's like, and it's, well, maybe he's not a sensitive person, but he's going through a sensitive moment. It's a sensitive situation, and it's understandable to feel hurt. So that's the good part I can see from it, because, again, we're just seeing these two people at the beginning. Like, Rebecca really wanted to hurt Ted, and now they're at parallel journeys. So it's nice seeing how those two journeys are being guided towards the season, writing-wise. Because, I just think it's smart.
It is. It's just, I think, again, Ted Lasso is just one of those series that you can just kind of watch over and over again and really appreciate the writing, because it is just so clever. Aside from being smart, intelligent, and super entertaining, it's very clever in the way that it structures its narrative. And to see that dynamic of, like, what's her name? What, in episode 3 from, like, today's episode? What is Rebecca's freaking best friend's name?
Sassy.
That's
her name, right?
Sassy Smurf. I don't know if that's her last name, but I know it's Sassy.
No, but
I got beef with Sassy. I got beef with Sassy. I'm not gonna lie. Ooh. I don't like how she treats Ted. I don't either. She uses him. I don't like. Yeah. It's just a little bit. I don't know. It feels a little icky. I mean, good for her, and it's, two consenting adults, but I don't like how she kind of infantilizes him.
No, and at least for me, when I saw that scene where she's up front with him, what I enjoyed, that I think a lot of Tedbecca shippers will enjoy. Strength, comrades.
We're in the trenches here, dude.
But for Tedbecca shippers, I think that moment was a moment of inhale, exhale, peace, because she doesn't pose a threat.
No,
because it's Rebecca's friend. So if they actually start to form a relationship, it would feel icky. It would feel disgusting.
It would feel very
not rude, not right. Just laws of friendship. But
we're gonna talk about that.
But I like that she's just very upfront, and there's still hope for us comrades.
And not only that, and it kind of brings me to my point of mentioning this woman that I have beef with. It is her line that is really actually kind of hits home, is that she's 3 years ahead of him on that post-divorce journey and that heartbreak and that healing. She's like, I'm basically, like, older than you. Like, I'm already 3 years ahead of you. You're a mess. So we're not gonna, obviously this is not gonna work because we're not on the same track. We're not in the same vibe, essentially. And I thought that was really interesting, because then it made me think Rebecca and Ted basically got divorced at the same time.
Yeah. No, again, it's that
so they're journey. Actually properly on that parallel healing journey. And I really love to see how we're getting both sides of Rebecca, healing further and trying to stand up more for herself. Not that she's ever had an issue standing up for herself in general, but when it comes to Rupert has always been, a kryptonite to her character. And it's hard, because when you are trying this hard to be a strong, independent woman, but you're still recovering from a very abusive and toxic relationship, that abuse will still linger for years. So I love to see her recovering slowly from that as Ted is like actually finally dealing with it.
I think it's also what's posed when she goes to see Keeley for the first time, which I think it was episode 1, that we see her office and everything, which Keeley's whole situation with her accountant, like advisor, ooh,
we'll get into it.
But we'll get into that soon. The snow globe scene for some reason made me emotional. But anyways, back. What I wanted to add to that is that I think Rebecca is getting to a point where her lesson this season is to learn to defend herself out of self-care and not out of malice or trying to fight fire with fire. As she says to Keeley that she just doesn't want revenge anymore, she just wants to win, and Keeley is like, you'll get there soon, because she is healing, she is getting better, but there's still that part of her that's hanging on too much to the pain and the hurt instead of actually healing. She's still on that healing journey.
Yeah, and you know, it's obviously, it still has to do with her healing journey, but I do like that she is now focused on winning, not only to beat Rupert, but finally winning for herself, because I was just kind of thinking, and when she was talking about in episode 2 about how Rupert won her over and how he uses his charm to win people over, he makes them feel special. She mentioned that she was working as a bartender. Like, Rebecca was not a millionaire on her own. She's not self-made. She's literally a millionaire and an owner of a football club because she married this man. So I'm not saying she didn't that she came from nothing. She obviously, we've seen her house.
We've seen her mom.
We've seen her mom. She comes from money, but not like, you know, multi-bazillionaire money like Rupert. So she's now in that position where she wants to win and I guess prove to herself and prove to others that she is capable of being even, you know, a Rupert in her own right, I guess. She wants to prove people that she can girl boss. Yeah, and I think she can. I think that's her journey.
I do love another parallel. I love the parallels in this show. Look at me
love it.
Discussing math. But
Miss Mathlete.
What I really liked was something that Mariana mentioned on Twitter, giving you a shout out.
At Spicy Memory, at Screen Spec.
But the fact that Ted and Rupert do have that parallel, where Ted also is a very charming person and he's constantly charming people, but Ted just does it to make people feel special, as Rebecca mentions, and not like Rupert that does it to get something out of someone. He likes winning.
Ted's sincere with his charm. Ted is not like consciously nice to people just to get something out of them. I think he's a little bit too flippant to do that. Because even if when he wants to try, like Rebecca said in the first episode, like, you know, fight back for once, you know, I think this is going to be. You just
gotta let Ted be Ted, and then
you gotta let him be, and then he was, and it tends to work out. But I do, again, it's one of those shows where you still feel the stakes. Yes, you know it's probably gonna work out in the end, but there are gonna be consequences for these characters.
Work out in this season.
Maybe I would like to see. I would like it. You know, let's use the Glee rule book, season 1. Just walk with me here.
Yeah.
Walk and talk.
It's okay. I worked with Ryan Murphy. I'm an ally.
Season 1 Glee, they made it to like, I don't think they even made it to nationals. I don't fucking know the names of these things. Season 2 Glee, they made it like halfway through. Season 3 is when they finally like make it to nationals. I don't think they even win. So like it's like a progression. I think it's in season 3 where they finally, like, the Glee Club actually wins a competition for once. And that's like the furthest they've made it. It was season 3. So using that like lore and rule book in competitive storytelling, I suppose, I feel like this is AFC Richmond's season. Even if winning to them is equal to winning second place, you know, because as we can sense that with Zava, they're going to get a lot further.
Yeah, and they are.
Than they have ever before.
We see, especially in this episode, and I think that's the thing. We are setting up in this episode so many wins that we're getting them out of the way. Also, just so we don't have to go through the entire season, which I think is very smart. But we need to have a balance, and it can't all be wins for Richmond. So I think they're gonna make us sweat for it. I hope we do get some sort of win, because it's talked about in the first season when his son gives him the little Lego cup. It's talked about when Rebecca reminds him, like you said, we were gonna win the whole thing. So I really do want it, but considering the lessons that we're trying to learn here, where it's not about the actual trophy that they're after, it's about the satisfaction they want to feel, and there's different situations. Roy, with not self-hatred or self-loathing, but he's going through something right now where he's trying to find his own worth and realize that he is enough for other people, and he has to go through that alone, even though we all reacted the same way as they did when we found out that they broke up. So it's this whole thing, because again, it's the show dealing with that toxic masculinity and that fragile masculinity, and I love that it's still here in its own little ways. Ted wants to win to prove something to his son. Rebecca wants to win to prove something to her ex-husband, etc., etc. So everyone's trying to prove something. So whatever we
It's
get,
interesting how winning looks different for everyone.
Exactly. So whatever we get, I just hope it's smart, because it's such a nice build-up so far with these 3 episodes. I just hope it's... I don't want it to be a happily ever after painted with rainbows and cotton candy.
100%.
And I think that's what we deserve. But I do hope they get something.
Just give us a little bit of something. Just a little bit, I want to be happy for these characters, because I feel like this team deserves to be happy.
Yeah. I do pose a question. Do you think Nate will win for West Ham? Do you think he's going to leave West Ham and go back to AFC Richmond? How do you predict Nate going about this?
I feel like Nate might sabotage West Ham. I feel like Nate is gonna make a move to kind of flip the script on Rupert. Like, I would hope that he realizes Rupert is just a white man using him and manipulating him.
I think so, because it is Star Wars. Look at his
face. It is!
He's Emperor Palpatine. We have Anakin.
Correcto.
Anakin at the last moment, he's like, my son has changed my heart. Die, Palpatine. So maybe we'll get something like that. I hope so.
I feel like... Yeah. And at the very least, even if things don't end well for Nate, because I don't think he's gonna get a redemption anytime soon, I feel like he's gonna try. And who knows, maybe some kind of scandal is gonna come out, especially considering Rupert's continuous scandals that will make Rupert actually have to leave the public spotlight for a while.
Yes, because we just found out Rupert is cheating yet again. And Nate sees this, so I feel like the whole facade that Rupert created for him is chipping away. The only problem is that Rupert is showing support and is telling him everything he wants to hear, because Nate just wants to be accepted by his father. That's all he wants. He's got daddy issues. And then he projected that onto Ted, and then Ted also rejected him. So now he's gone to Rupert, which is literally the worst of all of them.
Yeah, and it's just, it's a kid that's always being bullied that wants to be the bully. And that's the really big issue with Nate. So I think he's gonna get what's coming to him, but in a, again, as we've been saying, the word of the day is smart. I feel like it's gonna be done in a little bit more of a clever way, and I think once again, winning looks different for everyone. So even if Nate loses, I feel like he's gonna win in his own right, just as a person. Maybe he'll just grow more as a person and realize that the things that he thought he wanted aren't actually that, because he wants approval, he wants fame, he wants bitches, he wants more money, more bitches.
I mean, he just really, truthfully, I think what he wants is affection and nurturing and just feeling like he belongs, and that's what we're getting to this season. But anything else we want to discuss before we close? I mean, Keely and Babs, that's an interesting dynamic.
It is interesting, but even more interesting than that, and I would like to close on that, is Rebecca and her psychic.
They saw
Fuck
Fleabag.
Out of here.
They saw Fleabag go to a psychologist and they said, whoa, that's a brilliant scene. Do you want to fuck the priest or do you want to fuck God? Can you fuck God? Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. If you haven't seen Fleabag, streaming on Amazon Prime. Very much the opposite vibe from Ted Lasso, but it is, again, brilliant storytelling.
That's why I'm so drawn to Ted Lasso. It's the writing. Brett Goldstein, I'm pretty sure you saw Fleabag and you got inspired. But
it is. It is very inspired, darling. But yeah, I think this whole thing with Rebecca and the psychic and the whole, like, trying to throw us off and, like, oh, she's gonna be a mother. Oh, she's gonna end up with Sam again. I think it's a load of baloney, and I'll tell you why. Shite and 90 armor. And I'll leave you all with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because shite and 90 armor is absolutely some stupid shit that Ted Lasso would say.
I mean, okay, let's talk about my favorite joke from this season so far, when they're talking about Zava leaving an Italian team, and he says, catch you later, Pepe.
That's so stupid.
It is stupid.
It's so good, though. It's so good.
Catch you later, Pepe. Be gone.
Brilliant. But
be gone. No, it's great. I see him saying shite in 90 armor.
Yeah. Because he says silly little puns like that, and I'm sure it's going to make sense once he says it, but I think he's the one who's going to say it. So take that as you will, Tedbecca Army. We're holding out in the trenches together. I brought snacks.
Yeah. We're all in the trenches from, like, being a Tedbecca shipper is literally, you can insert a clip here. It's the epitome of being in the trenches in All Quiet on the Western Front. Those are the trenches we're
literally
in.
Us. We're bad. We're like horrendous. Jesus Christ.
But
we're in the trenches hoping Wonder Woman is going to show up.
At the end of season 2, a bunch of months pass, so you can debunk that theory. Get it out of here. Swipe.
Yeah.
Be gone.
And again, who has a child that's already born?
So that was my theory.
Ted.
Okay, hear me out. This is how we finish. The first time I watched the season, that was my first thought, because Rebecca is getting a family. It's AFC Richmond. They're all becoming a family.
Oh,
they're getting closer. Am I wrong?
That's
it feels
so
like
cute.
It feels like some mushy gushy bullshit they'd feed us with the show. So I feel like Ted is.
She's mother.
I feel like Rebecca is finding her family with these people. They are getting closer. It is becoming more tight knit. I mean, she's finally forgiven Leslie. They are getting closer. They are all trusting each other. They are each other's found family. This entire AFC Richmond team. And the club and everything. But also, if she does end up with Ted, which at this point I'm like, Tedbecca shippers, comrades, I see you. But if she doesn't end up with him, I'll survive. I feel like I'll survive. I feel like it'll be cushioned, hopefully. But if they do end up together, I'll be happy. And I can see it because Ted wants to...
I feel like
Ted wants to be with his son. And if she ends up with Rebecca, they can all parent Henry together.
Yes. And I feel like if they don't technically end up together, I think Ted Lasso's version of them ending up together is them being open to, like, a date.
Yeah.
Like, being open to finding each other and seeing each other in that way. And maybe that's her, you know, it's the end of the season. She's at the airport with him.
I need it. I want to see it because I know it's a lot of people being like, hey, I think like two people can just be friends. And it's fine. I see where you're coming from.
That's
but
cool.
I also feel like it's equally valid to see two people that have been hurt so much and are healing, being able to heal with each other. Like being able to heal before they get together.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you don't have to be
that's
totally...
what she needs.
Yeah, I don't think you have to be also like a fully like... Because there's also... ¿Cómo se dice?
T.
I don't think you have to be fully healed as a person to be able to have a healthy relationship. but you have to put in the effort, and that's what they've been doing. And if this is where we're going, again, comrades, I like everything that made us get here. I love every step of the way that led these two people to each other, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. And honestly, really excited. I hope you guys are following along. Remember, every Wednesday on Apple TV Plus, be sure to stream Ted Lasso. And if you are lucky enough to be on the Pacific Coast, on the West Coast, you can watch Ted Lasso Tuesday nights at midnight, basically. But I digress. Be sure to stream it and let us know what's been your favorite episode so far. What are your theories? Let us know in the comments, or let us know on Twitter, respectfully.
Yeah.
And
everyone is saying episode 2 of season 3 is the best episode of the entire series. Do you agree? Let us know.
We'll do a little poll. We could do a little poll. Love a little poll. Love democracy. Josie, where can they find you?
You can find me at the Josie Marie on Twitter and Letterboxd.
You can find me at Captain Melendez on Twitter and Letterboxd, and you can find us at Filmme Talk on Twitter and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications bell. We are going to be covering Ted Lasso. We're going to be covering John Wick soon, hopefully. Josie hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah, I'm going to go see it.
Yes, so hopefully after this episode comes out, you'll hear our thoughts on John Wick 4. It's going to be a good times. And for the rest of the Tedbecca army in the trenches, believe. Bye.
Bye.